Well, her husband had died, and she was unemployed, and she was broke. Understand, she wasn't low in funds, she was dead broke. She had 2 young sons, and they were about to be taken away from her. She owed a lot of money to creditors who were showing her no mercy. She was feeling overwhelmed. Welfare for her was not an option. She was out on her own. She was stuck. She didn't know what she was going to do. And if you ask her about a plan, she probably would say to you, I can't even. Have y'all seen that saying, I can't even? I see it on the internet all the time. It's an internet slang expression used to indicate that the speaker is in a state of speechlessness as a result of feeling absolutely overwhelmed. I don't even know which way to go. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. This week, 2 memes came across my Facebook page. The first one used a Nike example. The meme said this: that awkward moment when you're wearing Nike and just can't do it. I've been there. Then this meme hit on Thursday. It had a young girl sitting on a bench, and the little caption said, when you just can't even. Have you ever been there? I have. I've been there over some big tragedy that I've gone through that really has rocked my world. And I've been there just at seasons in my life where I've thought, I don't know how to move off of dead center. I don't know which direction I'm supposed to go. Dr. Robin Gershon is a professor at Columbia University, and she's done research to understand how people act following a major disaster. She found there tends to be a phase in which people delay action, and she says it's for 2 definite reasons. One, they just aren't sure if they're needed. They're not sure if maybe they're gonna be in the way. But the second thing she said is this: they don't know what action to take first. They're just stuck. Something has happened. They know they need to do something, but they just don't know what should be their first step. During that phase of inaction, people mill around and they let their brains do what brains do. And you know it's true. Sometimes your brain doesn't help you. Sometimes it just puts you farther away from what you need to accomplish. And I recognize that that's true in all of us. When we're stuck in a personal life crisis, we have the very same tendency, inactivity. I don't know what to do. And the more we think about it, the more confused we get about what to do, and so we continue to do nothing. I've been there. Spent a few years there, actually. You've probably been there too. There's a wonderful little book I ran across this week written for kids called Problem Solving 101, a simple book for smart people. The author is a man by the name of Ken Watanabe, and he introduces 4 characters to represent 4 types of kids, but really it's types of people who struggle with solving life's problems and ever finding any real movement in their life in a positive way. Maybe you will recognize yourself in one of these people who struggle with problem solving. The first character he introduces is a woman or a girl by the name of Miss Cy. He called his first character Miss Cy, and Miss Cy gives up easily whenever a problem comes her way. She's filled with self-doubt that cancels out any good idea she has. She hides from opportunities. She feels sorry for herself. She blames everything on the universe for just making her life miserable. That's Miss Cy. Miss Cy is stuck. Then there's another character he introduces, Mr. Critic. He's stuck too. He reminds me of someone that was actually pretty much a part of my life for many years, but this was his personality. Mr. Critic never really tries to accomplish anything, but he has opinions about what everybody else attempts to do. Any of you know those types? Man, this guy did. He never did anything, but he could criticize everybody. He points out all the reasons an idea is terrible and it won't work, and when anyone stumbles, he takes it as proof that he was right. According to Mr. Critic, others are stupid, especially when they don't do things his way. His mouth moves a great deal, but that's about all that happens in the life of Mr. Critic. Then he introduces another character, Miss Dreamer. I get this character. Miss Dreamer's a visionary, but she's stuck too. She has plans, and she has ideas, and she has goals, and she has dreams, and she has a great imagination that's so crystal clear that she can make her dreams almost seem impossible to anybody who will listen. One day she's gonna write a book. The next day she wants to start a business. She has all these ideas, but she never knows how to move off of dead center and take that first step. And so she lives her whole life never really moving forward. There's one more he lists. His name is Mr. Go-Getter. Some of you will relate to this. He's an optimist always. When a problem pops up, he moves toward it with confidence. He can fix anything that's wrong if he just works hard enough. That's his mantra. If I can just work hard enough. Mr. Go-Getter never gives up. He doesn't slow down to plan, and he enthusiastically says yes to every opportunity. But failure happens. He guesses that it just was him not moving fast enough. And he ends up not accomplishing as much as he wished in his life. The book continues by describing a better way. Watanabe says this: there is a better way. Problem-solving kids who face problems by first assessing the situation, then forming a plan, and then taking action while monitoring progress and correcting course when something isn't working. And as I looked at those words, I said, my goodness, written for a child, but good advice for me. Some of you are probably pretty good problem solvers, but many here today will identify with one of those four types. And many of you would say today, either by some difficulty that's happened in your life or by merely the fact that it's a season you're in and you don't understand why, you have a difficult time taking that first step in the right direction. And that's what I think we're going to talk about today. I think it's going to be very helpful. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in two big topics. We're going to talk first about something I'm going to call limiting beliefs, which is something you need to know about and something you're going to have to handle because it could be shutting you down and making your next step seem very, very unclear. Then I'm going to talk about another part, and for that we're going to go to the flip chart and I'm going to get some participation. And I think if we pay attention and we really open ourselves up, you will leave today knowing exactly a direction you can walk in when you don't know what to do. So, first thing I want to say is this. When you're stuck, it's helpful to get rid of all your limiting beliefs. When you're stuck, it's helpful to get rid of all your limiting beliefs. A limiting belief is an unconscious belief that keeps you stuck. Since you're unaware of it, there's nothing you can do to remove it until you become conscious of it and you begin to question it. You don't necessarily know right off the bat you have a limiting belief. But if you study and you begin to look deep inside, you can begin to realize some of the ways that I have been thinking has kept me in this lost state. One example of limiting belief is this: negative self-fulfilling prophecies. This is something you need to be very careful with. A self-fulfilling prophecy is when we expect something to happen so much so that we end up causing it, or at least allowing it to happen. Some people just speak and they believe the worst about everything, and their life seems to turn out just as they have prophesied it would be. This past week, I was so blown away. Our lead pastor, Jeff, wrote an amazing post on Facebook. I checked it last night. Over 600 people had responded to this post. It was a very biographical post about the season of life he is coming out of and in the new season of life he's going into. He began the post like this: after losing everything 3 years ago, battling depression, PTSD, and then self-medicating with alcohol for a year, people often ask now, how did I get my life back? Not sure I have the full answer, but here is what it took for me. And then he goes on a list of 10 things, and they're very, very good. Well, one of the things is he found a supportive community. He calls out the Village Church, and he says that was a good place to have a supportive community that would come along beside him and encourage him and help him. He said that a counselor helped him to learn to embrace his story. And that's important, to be able to embrace it, not try to hide from it or not try to deny it, but just say, this is my story. This is what's happened in my life. He said a book by Brené Brown called Rising Strong was very helpful to him. And then he lists some other things that were helpful, but he also said he learned this. He learned every day to speak out positive affirmations. Now, I knew exactly what he was talking about because there have been seasons in my life, especially as a younger man, when I would think to myself, I am a failure, I am a loser, I put things in the ditch that don't need to be in the ditch, I make the bad decision. And you know what? When you say those things, you are just paving the way for that to be where you go. And I found myself following that path. So Jeff says, he learned to speak out positive affirmations. This is him talking. I now speak out loud who in my heart I know I am and who God created me to be. He said, I call it my I am list. I am a fighter. I am a leader. I am love. And he says every day he does that. Self-fulfilling prophecies are one of the biggest reasons that you get stuck. And when you repeat old stories in your head, reminding yourself always of your failures, mistakes, and those things you're not capable of, they all limit your possibilities and keep you from stepping into the reality that you want to step into. You understand? Everybody, it's important. The Bible's filled with examples of making sure you speak good things. The Apostle Paul says, these are things I'm focusing on. What things are good, pure, virtuous, noble. Those are the things that I'm going to have in the forefront of my mind because we really have a power in what we speak. Second limiting belief is this, a martyr complex. Just quickly, a martyr complex is a behavioral pattern where you continually think of yourself as the victim or the martyr in a situation in order to fulfill an emotional need or avoid responsibility in your life. You've met people like this, I've met people like this. They often help everybody, and then they let you know that they have helped everybody and their life is just the way it is because they've spent so much time doing all these things for so many people. And it becomes a limiting belief, and it's something that you need to be aware of. The third limiting belief is this, a negative concept of a higher power or of God. Mostly, when surveys are done across America, there have been an increase over the last decade in atheism. We understand, we see that, we know that that's real. But by and large, still most Americans say that they believe in God. The problem is, the belief that people have about God can be a very limiting belief. God is angry. God abandons us when we screw up. God is wanting to rain down his judgment on us. When we started the Village 24 years ago, we had no core group. We just had the thought that there were a lot of people who didn't connect at church, didn't connect to a church, and we felt like we would be a place where maybe they could connect. And so I spoke to, I don't know how many hundreds of people, and I can't tell you how many of them said, well, I can't go to church, the roof would cave in. God would just cave the roof in on us. And this is true because I've got a copy of the letter. I wrote hundreds of people to invite them to our first service, and I said, now listen, we've had an engineer check the building, and the roof will not cave in. If you come, I can guarantee you 1 week. Now, if you come a second week, I'm not so sure, but 1 week, we're going to be okay. And 86 people took the chance, and 86 people came for our very first service. Now, there are verses you can read when you open the Bible that do portray God as a killer, as one who supports genocide, which is the killing of people just because of their nationality. Don't think that when you read the Old Testament of the Bible that it is any less brutal than what you imagine is in the Quran. It is not. It is genocide commanded by God. Kill every baby, kill every child, kill every woman, kill every animal, annihilate everything. So what do you do when you see things like that? Well, we have said for a long time that you have to have some filter that you look at God through. And Jesus, when he came to the earth, said, if you want to know what God is like, put it through the filter of me. When you have seen me, you have seen the Father. And so that's something that we've tried to take real seriously because we want people to have a good understanding of God and not an understanding of God from misunderstood passages written thousands and thousands of years ago. Jesus said, look at me, I'm the perfect reflection of the divine. So when there is a discrepancy and I say, well, this sounds like God is arbitrary and he is unkind and he is a killer, I have to say, but Jesus said, I'm the way, the truth, and the life. Jesus said, you love even enemies. I have to say that's the reflection of God. Now, if you want to pursue this further, let me tell you about a talk that I gave a year ago called How Should Christians Relate to the Bible? How should Christians relate to the Bible? If you want to jot down this URL, it's a good talk that will help you understand what I'm trying to say today. It's on the screen. If you want to jot it down, look that up because it might be helpful to you. But here's what I want you to get. I don't want you to have a limiting belief of God. God is for you. He is not against you. God is for you. He is not against you. Romans 8:31 says, if God is for us, who can be against us? So when I would get stuck in these old belief patterns of a God who was angry and wanted me to be stuck, I would begin to repeat this mantra. This was the mantra that helped me a lot. If God is Trinity and Jesus is the face of God, then the universe is benevolent and God is on our side. And I must have said it 1,000 times. If God is Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and Jesus is the face of God, then the universe is benevolent and God is on our side. That to me is an understanding of God that is not limiting, that allows me to step into each new day fully, not thinking that God is wanting to put his foot on my throat or wanting to cast me into outer darkness, that God is for me. He is not against me. The Bible is clear. The compassion and love Jesus exemplified is an exact representation of the love and that represents the heart of God. He loves us fully. He loves us unconditionally. He receives whosoever will with grace and with open arms. So that's the first thing I want you to get. You have to eliminate these limiting beliefs. Eliminate these limiting beliefs. You have to put aside those thoughts that are not conducive to helping you make a good step forward in every area of your life. Now, the second part of it is going to involve the flip chart, and it's going to involve a volunteer. But before I choose a volunteer, I want you to know this is where I need you to take notes. I want you to really help me. I want you to think about what we're doing because it's very, very important. I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask our volunteer in just a moment, to come up with 3 to 5 heroes. Heroes. So I want all y'all thinking because you may be the volunteer. 3 to 5 heroes to you. They may be people that you know personally, that you have a relationship with. They may be people that you maybe don't know, but through their writing or through their work, they have had a huge impact on you. But come up with 3 to 5 heroes, and then for each one of those heroes, I want us to get 3 or 4 traits they possess, or let me say it another way, values that they possess that pull you, that have impressed you, that have resonated with you. When I use the word values, I'm always a little nervous because politicians use the word values to talk about family values. They always want everybody to vote for them because they represent family values, whatever that means. But I want us to take back what that word really means. I want us to understand values by putting it in the context of change and what really moves us in our life. Defined simply, values are the things that are fundamentally important to us. They are fundamentally important to us. So you got it? We're going to come up with 3 to 5 heroes, and then we're going to come up with 3 to 5 character traits or values they possess that have been impressive to us or has kind of pulled at us. Now, who's willing to come up? Anybody willing to come up and help me? You don't mind? Come. You're Tyler. Come up here. This is Tyler. Give Tyler a hand, everybody. This is Tyler Williams. All right, your hat says verbs. All right, that's good. I don't even know what that means. I know what a verb is, but I don't know exactly what that means. But so you don't mind helping me? Here's this. Let me give you this. And have you been thinking about heroes? You've been able to think a little bit?
Yes.
All right, let me swap places with you because I want to write some things down. And tell me, I'm going to put here, Ty. I'm going to put this, and maybe you can do this on your sheet, but I'm going to put Ty heroes. All right? So tell me the first hero that you think of when you think of people that are heroes to you.
The first one that I thought of was Barack Obama, actually.
Okay. Let me see. And I know we have Democrats and Republicans, and thank y'all for not hissing. Thank y'all that are on the other side of the deal. Y'all just proved yourself to be so mature, and I just want you to know I appreciate that very, very much. All right, how about another hero?
A man named Ezekiel Azanwu.
Well, great. We're going to call him Zeke, okay?
All right.
In a minute, I want you to tell me how come these people mean something to you, all right?
All right,
good. Tell me another hero.
C.S. Lewis.
Oh, that's a good one. All right, how about one more?
Van Waycaser.
Van, okay. Now, what I want to do is I want to ask you a little bit about these people because I want to get who they are to you and kind of what has been most impressive to you. So let's hit President Obama first. When you think of him, what are the things that jump out to you? Say he's heroic to me.
That like if I had to put one word to him, it's class.
I like that.
I just think that he's a class act for being not only the first black person to become president for our country, but he's gone through like so many people have just really given him they haven't made his job easy, and he has handled it with tact and with class.
Okay.
And I think that's something that not only that every black man should appreciate, but every man should look to.
Well said.
As,
Well said.
You know, so.
Well said. All right, tell me another trait or value about President Obama that means a lot to you.
This is going to be one pretty much for all of them, but humility.
Humility, I like that. And we'll know that those go to some others as well. One more. Think of another.
He's intelligent.
Intelligent. Okay. All right, that's very good. Humility, class, intelligent. Let's go to our friend Ezekiel. Tell me something about Ezekiel. Who is he?
All right, he is by far, hands down, my favorite poet, written or spoken word. He's a pretty modern Christian spoken word artist.
Wow.
And it just as far as I'm really big into I believe that there should be excellence in God's work. So he doesn't just put Jesus' name on stuff and expect that to be good enough. He is the best spoken word artist I've ever seen in my life. So
Okay, tell his name again. So you write this down. You can look him up because I'm going to look him up. Tell me his name again.
Ezekiel Azanwu. He's Nigerian.
Okay,
but, yeah,
get the spelling
yeah.
from here at the end of the service, all right? Because I can't even I don't even know how to Google it. All right, tell me some things about Ezekiel that you already said he does everything excellently.
Excellent.
He's
excellence.
Tell me something else.
Creative.
Creative. Tell me something else.
Can I use humility again?
Yeah, let's use humility again. Anything else jumps out?
Um,
We'll come back to him. No sweat. Are y'all doing this? Are y'all doing this? You putting your list down? Because there's a point to all of this. So make sure you put your list down, all right? All right, let's go to C.S. Lewis. Tell me something about C.S. Lewis.
He basically created a world that I felt like I could escape to in my own head. I felt like sometimes when I was a kid, when times got hard, the whole Narnia thing and whatnot, I know it's not real and stuff like that, but it just, for there to be another world that you can escape to, but God still exists there, was just amazing to me.
So that kind of, a creativity.
Yes.
There was something very creative.
Yes.
All right, a creativity. Tell me something else about him.
I feel like I'm using a lot of the same ones, but he's also intelligent as well.
Super intelligent.
He didn't. For me, it was it's a big thing because from what I read about him, he wasn't always a big Christian. It was his studies that actually brought his Christianity to light and stuff like that. So
that he kind of had a pursuit of truth.
Exactly.
And truth took him to where
Yeah.
he ended up being.
Exactly.
So he was a pursuer of truth. All right, think anything else about C.S. Lewis before we get to Van?
no.
Okay, how about Van? Tell us who Van is.
All right, Van Waycaser is my grandmother.
She's your grandmother,
Yes.
so that's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell me something about Van that jumps out to you that's a hero.
Strength.
Strength.
That's the biggest thing to me right there. That, and she is the biggest living example that I've ever seen of unconditional love.
Unconditional love. Tell me something else about her.
She's hilarious.
She's
Stepdad's back there testifying right now.
hilarious. All right, anything else?
No, that's good.
Okay, so we have Ty's heroes, Barack, Zeke, C.S. Lewis, and Van. You have yours down? You have yours down. Now, Ty, do you mind if I just change one word up here? Would that be all right?
Of course.
If I were changing one word, I would say, let's take this out. Because I think when I look at this, I'm actually getting a good description of you. By that I mean, the things that mean the most to you are what we discover in your explanation of these heroes. Now, here's something else that I think you'll find. Can you see yourself in some of these? I'm not saying every one of these. Can you see yourself actually living out some of these traits that you've described?
I see these are the main things that I pursue as a man, as myself,
I think,
more than anything.
I think you have nailed it. And I think what you will find is some of these things are very active in your life right now. They are very much a part of what you are doing or accomplishing. But then you will find some of these and you will say, you know what? That is something that means a lot to me, but I'm not really moving in that direction. Therein, can you find a place to take a step when you don't know what you need to do? Does it make sense? Thank you for helping me. I want to make a few more comments. Thank you, buddy. Thank you very much. Let me take that for you. Let me explain just a little bit more, because this, if you get this, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go to handwriting school. I know that it's hard to read, but if you get this, it can be a real eye-opener to taking next steps. Let me give you an example. If I were doing this a couple of years ago, I have my set of heroes, and I would be able to say, you know what, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. I would have several of these things. I would say, these are very much a part of who I am. But then there would be some areas that I would say, I haven't stepped in that path yet. But something inside of me wants me to go in that direction. I looked over here just a minute ago, and one of my heroes is here. A few years ago, I met a man by the name of Dr. Gene Greisman. Many of you remember when he did the play here, President Obama and Abraham Lincoln. Dr. Greisman is a scholar, an academic. He was a famous television host on TBS all across the country. He's been the head of departments in major universities. He's been a Fulbright scholar in Afghanistan. He's done a lot of things. And he's a little bit older than me, and he is still producing quality product every day as far as insight, writing, screenplays, performances, all the things he keeps producing. So I meet him a few years ago, and I'm instantly drawn to him. It was just like, he has some of those things that's inside of me. Now, I can see a few of the areas that I would say are heroic to me. I can say, you know what, I'm doing those things. But a couple of things jumped out to me. One, he is still on an adventure every year. I'll find out he's been around the bottom of South America on a cruise. And I'm thinking, man, most people have retired from taking cruises around the bottom of South America, but he's still out there doing it every day. So when I've been stuck, I can say, you know what? That is an area of my life that I need to always remember to pursue. I want to be on an adventure my whole life. And if I am not on an adventure, I need to make some steps to get on an adventure. Another thing about Dr. Greisman, he is enormously creative. And he creates every day. He writes. He writes books, he writes screenplays, he does performances, he does teachings, he gives lessons every day. And I found myself not doing those things that was inside of me that I wanted to do. And so with that discovery, I said, I need to take a step towards producing more of what I feel like God has in me to produce. Do you follow what I'm saying? So I just want you to know, whatever your values are, you can find next steps for you, because it's obvious this already means a lot to you. I'm not asking you to do something that's foreign. I'm saying this is in you. Trust the next step. It'll be a good step. Now, I began talking about a woman who had lost 2 children, or had the potential to lose 2 children, because her husband had died, she had no money, she was about to lose her children, she was about to lose everything. And I want you to know that's a true story. It's in the Bible. It's actually in 2 Kings chapter 4, if you want to read it this afternoon. But this woman is about to lose her children and she's about to die. And she calls a prophet to help her. And the prophet says, there is a miracle in your house. And he helped her see some things in her house when joined with the Spirit of God produced enormous, bountiful blessing to her that saved her family. So I just want to say to you, that simple thing, there's a miracle in your house. There's a miracle inside of you. When you don't know which way to go, look at those things that you value and take those steps you need to take to move off of dead center and begin to pursue the things you really need to pursue. You remember the Mariah Carey song from 1993? Her first big hit, I think, called Hero. What a great song. I never paid attention to the lyrics until this week. Listen to just the first verse. There's a hero if you look inside your heart. You don't have to be afraid of what you are. There's an answer if you reach into your soul, and the sorrow that you know will melt away. And then a hero comes along with the strength to carry on. And you cast your fears aside and you know you can survive. So when you feel like hope is gone, look inside and be strong. And you'll finally see the truth that a hero lies in you. Would you bow your heads, please? Thank you, Father, for this day. Thank you for opening our hearts up to the idea that limiting beliefs keep us paralyzed. But knowing what the next steps are can be as simple as looking inside of our hearts and looking at people that have pulled on us in a way that we can't even explain. There's just something in them that has spoken to us. And by identifying what those things are, we will take steps towards being our best self. Help that become real in all of our hearts. For that person that's frozen this morning, just stuck, help them discover what that next step should be, and help them know beyond any doubt you are for them and you are not against them, and you want to help them on the road. Thank you for this day. We pray this in Christ's name. Amen.